Launch confirmed. Complete.
It all leads to this. I had my most miserable gaming time with DrakeNier, watched DrakeNier 3, had a good time with NieR on Xbox, and finally, recently, played and finished the acclaimed NieR Automata. This is the end of YoRHa edition on Nintendo Switch.
Target location acquired. Marking on map. Proposal. Proceed to target location.
NieR Automata, currently set at the end of the DrakeNier E timeline, is a direct sequel to NieR, also known as NieR Replicant, which is essentially the same game as NieR Gestalt, which I already reviewed before. There are two things that make NieR games stand out. The complex and dark narrative is one, the other is the shifting gameplay and perspective that happens often. I don't like to spoil the story of the games I review, which always makes describing the strength and weaknesses of the writing in games like these very difficult. I'll try my best to give a synopsis. NieR Automata puts you in control of the android 2B, a YoRHa unit. YoRHa is a military organization made of androids with duty to rid the world of machines brought to life by alien invaders, so that the humans still living on the moon can return safely and reclaim the planet. 2B is on a mission to destroy an enemy target located in a weapon production factory. She receives support from scanner-type android 9S, and the two end up facing a Goliath-type machine which they're able to defeat after much struggle. The victory is short-lived as 3 more Goliaths surface around them, and they are left with no choice but to detonate their black boxes and take down the 3 targets along the explosion. The story moves through replicas of the unit since they are androids, and it turns out only 2B had her memories transferred, meaning the new 9S assigned as her partner couldn't remember her. The two are sent out again, this time to establish contact with the resistance camp on Earth and assist them with reconnaissance work. Their time there leads to them noticing more and more machines presenting strange docile behavior or attempts at mimicking human traditions. Still, this is the 14th Machine War, and as far as they know, machines have no emotions. They are their enemy, so what could be causing these changes? If it looks as if they jumped too far ahead in the timeline after the first NieR, it's because they did. NieR Automata is set over 3,000 years later, and while the themes of the narrative are very much human, the characters featured are pretty much all androids and machines this time. It pays to play NieR 1 first, the games are definitely connected, but Automata is so far ahead you can easily enjoy the story without knowledge of NieR DrakeNier or DrakeNier 3. Understanding the connection just clears the bigger picture surrounding the plot and helps you understand references and the backstory of a handful of characters. Besides, it's just exciting to recognize the connections. Just like with the first NieR, expect to get to the credits more than once. It takes more than one playthrough to see the main story to its full completion, and subsequent playthroughs come with new perspective that adds more layers to the world and characters. Some of the chapters can really lack subtleness and the messages are metaphor, but overall the writing will definitely get you thinking a lot about what it means to be human by the time you're done playing. Now, I played the Switch version, which comes with extra exclusive outfits, and something does spoil right away is that you play as other characters at certain points in the game. It might take until the end of the first act for the story to feel like speaking up. The prologue is very well paced and gets you intrigued about the setting, but the entire act after that can be really slow with focus on introducing you to the world. Once it picks up, it just doesn't stop subverting your expectations. These days, a lot of games and movies aim for subverting expectations just for the sake of it. Yoko Taro, however, really knows how to do that in a way that doesn't come off as gratuitous, contradictory, or at the cost of a fully cohesive narrative. He's done a tremendous job. It almost makes my suffering through DrakeNier worth it. Almost.
You are our ultimate weapon, and you must put an end to this war.
Understood, sir.
I wish you good hunting.
Glory to mankind. Glory to mankind.
Glory to mankind.
NieR Automata, like the first NieR, is usually presented itself as a typical action RPG. Move around field areas full of enemies to kill for experience, materials, and money. Combat borrows a little from character-driven action games like Bayonetta and Devil May Cry without ever fully embracing that. For better or for worse, with your moves being two melee weapons you string together for combos, a ranged attack button, and a cooldown based skill your pod uses that basically replaces sealed verses from Gestalt Replicant. The combat not being as crazy as Bayonetta might be a good thing. I didn't play this on hard mode, but at least on normal it definitely felt simple enough that someone who's intimidated by those other games could still have a good time. And also because, to be quite honest, Automata's melee combat is way too floaty. It's like the polar opposite to how NieR 1's rather stiff combat felt. I didn't feel any weight to my attacks and the timing of dodging just felt unnatural. Thankfully, the dodge timing doesn't matter too much since you can spam it a lot with no punishment. I should add that the individual weapons you choose and whether that weapon is your primary or secondary affects the character's combos a lot. So I will admit the fact that I didn't end up experimenting a lot might have affected my impression. Looking back, I really should have changed my weapon combinations more often. In my experience, too many games that implement lock-on features don't handle it well. And I'm afraid NieR Automata is one of those games. The lock-on is just bad. Sometimes it doesn't work at all, other times it prioritizes enemies away from what I'm actually trying to attack. I even had the game lock onto an enemy that was far behind me and not even caught on screen. Harder difficulty modes disable the lock-on feature anyway, so I might as well try not to use it at all. I still think there was potential here, because there is one particular boss fight that I very much enjoyed against a single humanoid character. I really think these types of combat systems shine the most when you're not fighting a giant mech or monster with gimmicky mechanics or Zelda-style telegraphs. Clearly, I didn't enjoy the combat system, so what is there to like? Well, this is a NieR game after all. The action gameplay doesn't stay the same all the time. Automata has almost as much auto-scrolling shooting segments as it has action RPG combat. Sometimes it will be traditional 2D scrolling shooting, sometimes it will be Star Fox style, and other times it will be Robotron Smash TV style. All of those gameplay segments work great, and your pod and weapon loadout even affects them. Another important feature is the hacking. Not hacking as in slashing enemies, I mean literally hacking the machine's logic to deal massive damage or even take control over them temporarily. This feature is character specific, but it changes the flow of combat, since the hacking segments involve minimalistic bullet hell battles of varying degrees of difficulty that you can try multiple times. This is also how you unlock special treasure chests and doors. When not looking for fights, you have a few safe locations where you just go to talk to NPCs, receive complete quests, or spend money to buy and upgrade stuff. The quests are a few steps up from the first game. They are significantly less tedious, even if the vast majority is still very bog standard. The lore they come up with is definitely a lot more meaningful than most of the dialogue NieR 1 rewarded you with. Completing every quest you can as soon as you can also feels more important because some of the quests have a long-term impact for the next playthrough, and give every context the main story doesn't provide for the characters involved, or foreshadow future revelations. There is a great variety of items, although you shouldn't have trouble beating the game with only healing items in the normal difficulty, and many weapons from past games return. The upgrading process is the same as the original NieR. Pay money and a small list of materials to level up your weapon. Maxing weapons can also unlock some extra attributes specific to that weapon. Fishing has returned as well, but it's been simplified to the extreme. All you do is choose where to throw the pod, then press the catch button when something bites. If you don't like fishing mechanics, you're probably gonna be okay with this. It feels very much like an afterthought, and just because they had a checkbox to tick. It is, however, a good way to make money fast if you need it. Fishes exist exclusively to be sold. Totally new to NieR Automata are the plugin chips. These are passive abilities you add to the characters once equipped. Every chip has a memory cost, so you can combine as many chips as your memory capacity allows. You don't start with your full capacity, you need to unlock that first by buying memory upgrades. Once you do, you have a wide variety of possible combinations to do. This type of feature is my favorite thing about Japanese action and RPG games. There are all kinds of effects beyond just increase your damage in numbers, like adding shockwaves to your attacks, enabling a Bayonetta Witch Time style dodge mechanic, or absorbing damage dealt to restore your HP. It gives you a lot of flexibility to fine-tune the combat to your own playstyle. The entire point of the chips is player expression. You could play through the whole game without a single chip installed if you're skilled enough. Naturally, because the characters are androids, a few of the chips are required for user interface elements like displaying enemies' HP and level, or showing your experience bar. There's even an OS chip for, you know what, I think you should find out what this one does by yourself. Plug-in chips can be upgraded up to level 8, which enhances their effects and increases their cost. Level 8 chips are excessive unless you're playing on hard, but man, trying to collect them all and upgrading to see the effects take place is incredibly addictive. Just be careful about dying, because if you die, some of the chips you carry will stay where your corpse was, and if you fail to return there quickly, you lose them forever. The performance and graphics for this port can be described like in 3 words. A for effort. Effort is the key word. We gotta appreciate that they managed to get what is essentially a PS4 game and put it entirely into a Switch game card. We gotta appreciate that the whole game is very playable from start to finish and didn't have to suffer Witcher 3 Switch Edition levels of downgrades. But this is still far from ideal. The game would struggle on PlayStation 4 at times. There was never any chance it was going to be a smooth experience on Switch. You can't tell that just by playing the prologue, and it gets even worse than that in the final third of the game. I can't tolerate occasional unstable FPS in a lot of games. NieR Automata's combat is fast-paced enough that the frame rate will make the already floaty movement become even more frustrating to time correctly. At the very least, the scenario still looks good from afar. You can get some nice views and potential screenshots. Just don't move too close or the illusion of beauty falls apart. The resolution of textures of objects and terrains were significantly lower to the point it took me until 20 hours in to realize their terminals, used for saving and skip travel, were supposed to be vending machines. Ground walls objects have a smeary, blurry mask carving them, of the kind I haven't seen since the original Xenoblade on Wii. Pre-rendered cutscenes and important character models will still look good regardless, so if you're just playing for the story, you should be okay. Music direction is a natural progression from the one used in NieR Gestalt or Replicant. You have even more vocal tracks still sung in the fictional tongue that sound as beautiful as ever. There is a certain tragic emotional weight added to the sound that can be physically felt in your heart, like a sense of hopelessness coupled with the sights of all the ruins of humanity you see while exploring the game's world. There is definitely less optimism evoked here compared to the first game's music. The soundtrack has a style that is very unique to the NieR series.
Catch confirmed.
Council of Humanity has a message for all of our brave androids fighting on the surface. Currently,
Jumping right to the question, do I recommend NieR Automata? Yes, this has become a very quintessential gaming experience. You might love it or you might hate it, but you need to go through this. The NieR games combine narrative and gameplay in a way that even the so-called narrative experiences out there never managed to do. If you're unsure you're gonna have a good time, then borrow it from a friend or buy it during a sale. There will be sessions that will make you super frustrated, but if the story grabs you, press on and make it to the ending, it's worth it. There is no series of games like NieR and no director like Yoko Taro. That said, if you're the kind of player who skips dialogues, thinks cutscenes shouldn't be longer than 10 seconds, and overall thinks stories are a waste of your time in video games, you're not gonna appreciate this game. You need to care about the narrative to appreciate all the ups and downs in NieR Automata. Now, if you're skeptical just because you look at the characters and cutscenes and thinks it looks too anime, well, I'm sorry you're so narrow-minded, that's your loss.